Hi, welcome to this edition of 10 in 10. This is a program where we try to get through 10 education technology topics in 10 minutes, and we haven't failed yet. I hope we don't do so today. So today's topics are 10 awesome social studies or history sites. So these are great sites for our social studies teachers and students and even parents if you're interested in social studies or history. So let's jump right in and see our first website. That first website is from the Smithsonian Institution. It's the Smithsonian History Explorer. And it's not just United States history, it's the history of like everything. But what's really cool about it is that it's got the entire Smithsonian collection of all their artifacts online. So you can actually, like I know in the Smithsonian History Museum, they've got lots of like famous, like the gun that shot Abraham Lincoln's in there, all that kind of stuff. And so you can actually go and see that gun, and it does in 3D. You can actually go around it. Great site, Smithsonian History Explorer. Type in a topic, type in a time, type in a person's name. They've got tons and tons of materials, and it's for all grade levels. It's not just high school. So the way to get there, historyexplorer.si, that stands for Smithsonian Institution, .edu. So historyexplorer.si.edu. Our second website is one of my favorites. This is EdCitement. It's from the National Endowment for the Humanities. It's a great website. It links the arts to the social studies, to the English language arts. It's a great website. Even if you're not a humanities teacher, this makes those connections for students. Students often think that what they're learning is siloed. And so what the humanities website at EdCitement does, it shows that what they're learning isn't siloed, that what they're learning in English class is addressed in history and in social studies and in math and in the arts. And so this is a great site, EdCitement, for the National Endowment for the Humanities. To get there, you go to edcitement.nih.gov, and the NEH stands for the National Endowment for the Humanities. Last show I didn't know what that stood for. The National Geographic Education website is a great website for teachers to go to because it's got National Geographic on it. Everything from the National Geographic is on there. They got lesson plans. You pick a topic in National Geographic, they've got a lesson plan that matches it. They've also got the grade level that matches it. So it's not just like middle school, high school. It's for everybody. And so if you haven't been to the National Geographic Education website, you need to go there. You could spend hours and hours and hours just going through all the content that's on there, but they also have lesson plans that go with it. They have worksheets, have all kinds of stuff that goes through there. You can see that it's got stuff for teachers, for families, for students, for kids just wanting to explore it. So if you got kids, at the end of the day, they don't have something to do, send them to a site like the National Geographic Education website. Let them explore that. And the way to get there is education.nationalgeographic.com. Okay, our next website is my favorite website of all time for learning education topics. And this is something that shows up a lot in 10 at 10. 10 in 10 is iTunes U. Again, if you go to iTunes U, type in history, history, you'll see that you'll get all, let's go back real quick, let's go back, there we go. You can see just tons and tons of entire courses in history, and they're from MIT, from Yale, from Stanford, the Khan Academy's up there. There's no reason that you can't find good information just in iTunes U. Now the way to get to iTunes U is if you have iTunes on your PC or your Mac or on your iOS device, you've got access to all this free content, and it's incredible, and you got to explore it. Okay, our next website is Arts Edge, and this is from the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. What's really cool, now you're saying to yourself, arts, what's that got to do with social studies and history? I don't understand what that's got to do. What Arts Edge does is it shows teachers, it leads teachers ways to integrate arts into their lessons. And so there's like whole lessons on how to integrate art into history, how to integrate art into social studies. They even pick the topics. And so if you're kind of stuck on how to put art into a lesson, go to Arts Edge, and this is where you go to on Arts Edge is artsedge.org. Again, it's from the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and it's a great website. It's one of the, again, all these websites are like websites you can just sit there and explore, find some really, really great information on. All right, This next one is kind of a strange website. This is kind of a strange website because what it is, it's called the knotted line. And what the knotted line does is it goes from like the 1400s, like the end of the 15th century, all the way to present day. And you click on the knotted line. When you click on that launch button, you click on that knotted line and you can find all these things that have to do with history. Some of them are very controversial, and so it's not one of those things that it's like all just the happy history stuff. A lot of it's controversial. I recommend that for probably our secondary students. But it's really a neat website the way they've done it. It's animated. You'll start playing with it and you'll think, man, this is really cool. And instead of the traditional website that goes up and down, this one goes across. It goes like you're going across like a timeline from the 1400s all the way up to present day and actually into the future. So the Knotted Line's a great website. The way to get there is knottedline.com. All right. This next website is Mr. Don's social studies site. Now this is a teacher, Mr. Don, and he's got just tons and tons and tons of games, online games that have to do with U.S. history. There's European history, museums. You can see there's ancient history. Tons and tons of stuff that he's collected over the course of the years. It's one of those that you got to scroll through, but you got to be careful because there's also advertisements on there, and they kind of trick you into clicking the advertisement. If you can figure out how not to click on the advertisements and go just to the content, Mr. Don's social studies site has some really, really good content on it. So go to mrdon.org. That'll get you to that site. Avoid those advertisements. The next website is a really interesting website. It's called Docs Teach, and it's what they do is it's from the National Archive. And what this does is the National Archive is putting on all these documents online. The Constitution, of course, is the most famous, but they put all their collection online, and then they have lessons that go with each one. And so these are primary source materials. And this is a great way to teach students what primary sources are. And so not only does it have the source, but it has lessons that go with it. And it's from the National Archive. You can't get closer to the actual source than the actual source. So the National Archives is the place to go. And the way to get there is to go to docsteach.org, this great, great place that's got just tons and tons and tons of primary source American history archive documents. It's just incredible. Some of that stuff, what's neat about a site like that is that you'll find stuff you didn't think was there. You'll go, oh, I had no idea that was there, and it's there. Okay, next website is called How to History. And it's just tons and tons of videos on how to do things like they did back in the old days. So how to build a teepee, for instance, how to start a fire with just a piece of stick, how to make a match. How did they do that back in the old days? This site, How to History, shows how they did all that. And so it's a really cool website. So if students don't know how to do something, they can just go to that website, and it kind of explains to them how they did something back in the old days. You know, a lot of us think that smart people only lived right now, but really smart people have lived all through history. And so this explains how our ancestors did things with the technology that they had available at the time. So How to Teach, the website is howtohistory.com. I'm sorry, it was How to History, not How to Teach. It's howtohistory.com. So, all right. Our last website is called Our Courts America. And this website is really nice because what it does is it explains to students the importance of our judicial system. And it's very up to date, and it's a lot of times people don't understand how the courts work, but this website is designed to give students an insight on how our courts work. Really interesting. And the way to get there is ourcourts.org. Really neat. So if you're studying the judicial system, this is a great place to go to. And let's go to our 10 that we've gone through. History Explorer, EdCitement, National Geographic's education site, iTunes U, Arts Edge, The Knotted Line, Mr. Don's site, Docs Teach from the National Archives, How to History, and Our Courts. That's 10 in 10. See you next time.